This is the Aftermarket Radio Network.
Welcome, everyone, to yet another episode of Diagnosing the Aftermarket A to Z. I'm Matt Fanslow, and the pursuit of truth and beauty is a sphere of activity in which we are permitted to remain children all our lives. That and more after we get a word from our sponsor, NAPA Autotech Training. Do you have a general service tech that you want to grow into your business, but you're lacking the path to get them there? Let NAPA Autotech's apprentice program pave the way. Go to napaautotech.com for more details. So this week, kind of like last week, I'm going to feed off of emails I've been getting. And I don't want to exaggerate about how many there are or anything, but more than a couple of just frustration over seemingly singular events in the shop. And these are coming from techs and managers, owners, as well as a service advisor. So really from multiple positions within the company. And a lot of it has to do with like perspective, the perception from one's perspective and the misunderstanding that goes on. And I'm not trying to sound vague here. Like I'm not trying to dance around anything. I guess I'm trying to lead this a little bit somewhere with an idea, and I'm involved. It's probably not that great of an idea, but an idea nonetheless. It's kind of a frustration of mine in just my own experiences, not just working for shops or working for businesses or being a manager or even just like in personal life, friends, family, stuff like that, where, and I guess this is where my central theme is that many of us and all of us will very easily, freely acknowledge and accept that in many sorts of situations, or I guess I was thinking even more on the entertainment side of things, that a lot of times there's more than meets the eye. And I'm not trying to spout off Transformer stuff here. What I'm really talking about is most of us freely admit and know for a fact that some of our very, very favorite songs, or maybe not our favorites, maybe we're just well aware of music, of songs, that when you listen to it, if you took it very literally, it might seem like it means one thing. But in actuality, taking artistic license and using metaphor and stuff like that, the artist, the lyricist or whatever, is really trying to convey something else or tell a different story. I am not a Guns N' Roses fan. It is way too close to hair metal for my taste. I guess Welcome to the Jungle's okay. After that, I start struggling. I know there's some really big fans of them out there. And I don't know, maybe it's hypocritical that I really like Metallica, but I don't much care for Guns N' Roses. But to me, they're different. But I think famously, they have a song called I Used to Love Her. The lyrics kind of go, or the hook, if you will, is I used to love her, but then I had to kill her. And one could get the idea that they're talking about, or in this case, Axl Rose is singing about a girlfriend or a female companion. It turned out it has nothing to do with that and everything to do with his pet dog and really trying to communicate that pain and angst and all that. That's a more famous one, I think. There's other ones where people even falsely give credence to or feel the song is about something it's not, meaning like, I think Puff the Magic Dragon is supposed to be about marijuana use. And the band has denied this, that it's nothing of the sort. And then I suppose to reference Metallica, there's so many of their songs, the lyrics really talking about wrestling with addiction, specifically alcoholism, and underlying mental health of anxiety. And if you follow Metallica, the lead singer, and I would say primary lyricist, James Hetfield, has long wrestled with both. And I think one treating the other, meaning his anxiety, he was treating with alcohol to be able to get up on stage and perform. He'd have to go up inebriated. And then it got really out of control where he was no longer able to function without it. And Master of Puppets might be the most obvious jump up and down look song. Master of Puppets, Pulling Your Strings, is this addiction is running your life. So we admit that. And movies, how many movies do we watch? And anybody that is a fan of Stanley Kubrick films, there's usually a lot more going on than what's obvious, right? There's stuff flying under the radar, messages. And we'd be just, I guess it just seems generally accepted. That's what we do. We even go to the movies looking for it, or listening to music, listening for it. And yet, when it comes to relationships, if you will, and not just like, friends and family and romantic type relationships, but also just at work, coworkers, managers, employees, all those dynamics, then all of a sudden there is no more than meets the eye. There isn't any underlying things, or we really don't seek it out. And I know it's something I've brought up before, with specifically management. We had a bad month. What's going on? Why is everyone getting lazy? I gotta revisit this pay plan. Maybe the pay plan isn't motivating like it used to. These jerks are going to force me to go just straight flat rate. Seems like the only way they work is when they got this carrot. And not that there isn't situations where that can be a little more true than we would like to admit. When there's guaranteed money, a lot of times some of that motivation goes away. And I suppose we could argue, and I think it would be a strong argument, that the pay plan itself isn't necessarily what demotivates, the lack of the carrot. I think a lot of times, if people are generally intrinsically motivated, like for the most part, your people are intrinsically motivated, that if they're on some sort of a more guaranteed type money, like an hourly salary type of a pay plan, that can sometimes amplify other demotivators throughout the business. And probably an interesting topic to think about for another episode. Might have to mark that one down. But we're really quick to make that decision, and vice versa, right? The employee is looking at, their hours, or no pay raises, or no reviews, or, the shop labor rate went up, but I didn't get a bump, anything like that. Immediately is the owner or manager is getting selfish, or they're just looking to bump their pay and not everybody else's. And then, if you go ask, it'll be excuse after excuse. I just can't. I had to go up with the labor rate just so we could maintain our profit goals percentage wise. But it seems all too rare that we want to do a little more digging and asking questions. And don't get me wrong. Like if you're one of the techs and not really have really little to no management position or station, asking some of these questions could result in a rather short, quick response of none of your business. But I do think if you ask earnestly and are seeking the truth, that usually people are pretty free about sharing the truth. I feel like if you approach very earnestly, that management's usually pretty cool about explaining the situation, why they did it, what's the plan. And oftentimes, if you're looking for a bump because of time, like you were told to expect reviews X amount of times or at this frequency or these time intervals, and you haven't gotten one in a while, that they would level with you. And honestly, not just level with you, might even go, oh my gosh, I forgot. Or I thought I put that in the calendar. Or I'm showing your review coming up in a couple weeks, something like that. NAPA Autotech training sessions are being conducted day and night in a town near you. This training caters to every level within your organization, be it a mechanical assistant, a mechanical specialist, a technology specialist, or a driver safety calibration specialist. Imagine a one-stop shop training partner in NAPA Autotech that will lead your team to a path to greatness. Autotech's entry-level Build-A-Tech classes convert the untapped potential of your new hires into money-making mechanical specialists. Autotech's higher-level tech update classes introduce specialists to the world of ever-changing technologies, which prevents your shop from getting technologically stagnant. Remember, if you're not moving forward, you're falling behind. And turning to the front of the store, the Autotech Service Advisor class is an awesome way to hone your client advocate skill set, ultimately benefiting the customer through an improved vehicle repair experience. But it doesn't stop there. Imagine an electric vehicle class that takes your specialist well past the mundane, yet necessary safety topics. Well, it's here. Autotech's EV Ready training is a week-long curriculum that takes participants through a hands-on experience involving hybrids and electric vehicles. The session kicks off with the use of PPE and proper tooling while touching on required OSHA regulations. Then, the students dive into the lab vehicles to gain knowledge of the common high-voltage components on EV and hybrid vehicles and their function. Attendees will be taken on a path exposing them to different electric vehicle manufacturers to compare component form and location. Additionally, information about Level 1 and Level 2 charging systems will be included, along with a quick look at DC to DC charging. The operation and maintenance of subsystems are explored, including the different modes of Tesla operations, and so much more. So what are you waiting for? Commit to taking your business to the next level with NAPA Autotech training. What's easier for most of us to empathize with is usually the other way around when things don't go right. That there's a comeback or a recheck. Something failed. And it might be what we would deem maybe egregious, a loose wheel. Days or weeks after a brake job or a tire rotate. It is really easy to blame. It's so easy to point fingers. Most likely, whoever was working on it is going to be mortified. And even with all the frustration and fear, like what if, the assumption is here, the car made it back and had a problem with like a wobble or a noise, and most likely a none too happy client, that stuff boils over. And we're looking for people to kind of pump the brakes a little bit and go, has this ever really happened before? Why would it just happen now? And is it a freak thing? Is it a freak special cause type thing where no one will be able to really explain what happened or why? If that's the case, it's really not a lot to do other than check the processes and what can we do to prevent this from happening again? In this case, probably none. Probably little to none. But what if we really look at the system and go, we have these interruptions. This particular tech is asked to stop and do other things, go work on other things, give clients a ride to work or a ride home, a lot of stop and go. Or maybe it's more of a foreman type, maybe not actual foreman, but maybe they're in a role, they're kind of a leader back there. The MP techs go and ask a lot of questions, so they get pulled away. Can this be observed? And even though an issue has never really happened, it's one of those things where it's just like a ticking time bomb. I'm kind of waiting for things to align just right. And that day they did. And then a decision has to be made. This is now an issue with the system. We can't really have it where people can't, employees or fellow techs can't ask this person for help or come to them with questions and mentoring and that stuff. But what could be done different to help alleviate this issue? And is it where the individual themselves says, give me a few minutes or to get to a stopping point and being more vigilant about it and remaining vigilant about it? Is it altering a pre-delivery inspection? And if there isn't any, is this one of those cases where it might be worth the investment to create and execute for this exact type of a situation where this type of distraction isn't one we necessarily want avoided, but we have to put everybody in the best position possible to succeed. And so that means this tech has to remain in that mentorship role, has to remain available, but through an understanding of remaining vigilant about finding stopping points and then also creating another layer of safety net. Does that protect them and the shop? And that's something that requires somebody in management to step back and go, there's probably more to this than meets the eye. There's probably something underlying. There's probably a hidden message here to pick up on. That in itself isn't a problem. That is a symptom. And that type of thought process is something we just readily do or just readily accept or knowledgeable of in other realms. But we start twisting environments a little bit, moving environments and situations, and the rules change. And in some cases, the rule changes don't make sense. And so I guess where I'm going with all this is just to try as best you can, remain curious. So I guess we're going to build on the curiosity episode because we have to remain curious, to always be suspicious of there's more. There's more going on, because these things that we're looking at as problems, we can look at other little hints or tells or just things we didn't normally consider to have any hidden meanings. Having some hidden meanings. One I never thought about was in the movie The Wizard of Oz and the Yellow Brick Road. So I guess the only reason that pops into my head is took the wife and the kids and I went to see the movie Wicked. And I guess I don't want to give anything away. Not that I'm telling you to go rush into the theaters to see it, but you get to see the creation of something. And I'm not saying a character either, like something very prominent within Oz. In the old movie, the characters are traveling on the Yellow Brick Road, and it by itself is kind of an interesting representation of maybe the pursuit of happiness. So I just feel like there's so many situations in our day-to-day lives, especially if we're running a business or participating in an organization where we're supposed to be all symbiotic and relying on one another to work together to generate something beneficial to all of us. In this case, presumably properly, accurately, professionally diagnosed, serviced and repaired and maintained vehicles that when situations arise, regardless of perception or perspective, that we look for some hidden clues to something more. And maybe the easiest example is from the service advisor position, when he normally laid back, jovial client comes in very, very cross. That sure, they could be upset over something we did or didn't do. It could also be an indicator, something more going on. And not that we have to turn into just psychotherapists, but genuine concern can often open them up and just further build that trust. And the same thing goes for everyone else in the shop. Genuinely being curious about why something is the way it is, why it seems like this may have changed, why did this happen, why didn't this happen. I think just being open and honestly curious about the causes and acknowledging that there's more, that is probably not surface level, can continue to build even more and more trust between everybody in the shop, from the back to the front, management to employee and vice versa. So yeah, that's my response to these emails is, how do we not shift gears? Like, I don't understand how we can't take and correlate a lot of this stuff into different realms and realms of thinking. So that is how I will leave you. So I hope you got a kick out of that. I hope that answered some of those emails. Keep them coming. Some of the stories and questions are very interesting and thought-provoking, and in some cases very heart-wrenching. Yeah, I try to respond to everything. I would like to take a second to thank our sponsor, NAPA Autotech Training, and also thank the Aftermarket Radio Network. And if you do want to send me an email, don't hesitate. It is mattfonslowpodcast@gmail.com. And until next time, take care.
You've been listening to Matt Fanslow, diagnosing the aftermarket A to Z on the Aftermarket Radio Network. Follow Matt on your favorite listening app. He's very interested in what you have to say. Let him know what you'd like him to cover and come on the show. Matt is all for advancing the aftermarket. Find Matt Fanslow on social media and connect or on aftermarketradionetwork.com.